In my first coaching business that I launched, I made $0 profit for 16 months. It was really tough. I was doing this one major mistake. So if you're just starting out in business and you're basically near ground zero, you've been trying to get clients, but you can't get clients. Here's one thing that is brutal, and until you learn it, you will never break out of this cycle of not signing clients. So here's what it is. It's understanding statistics and statistical analysis. So before you click off because you're like, oh, well, that sounds simple. I took statistics in school, blah, blah, blah. Like, listen up. This is really important. So I actually just had this one of the coaches I'm working with recently, and we just launched his offer, launched some client acquisition systems, and it's been literally like 3 days or something, and he hasn't signed a client yet. and he messages me because he got like blocked by someone, and he's like, I'm kind of having second thoughts. Like, is the niche not viable? Should I change it? And this is normal for I felt the same exact way when I was starting out. I launched a new offer. All right. And here's the thing, here's a problem, is you cannot make decisions based on emotion. All right, based on emotion. And you might think, oh, well, I sent out, 10 messages and I had like this one really negative reply. And so I think this is just a bad way to contact people. Or, I had a sales call and he didn't close. He just wasn't interested at all. He didn't have the money, so my market is broke. It's like, you can't do that. You can't make decisions or judgments based on such a small data set. So first thing you want to understand is like, what is the minimum sample size for significance? All right, this might sound boring, but it's hyper important to your success, hyper important. So minimum sample size, you basically have to determine, okay, so for me to actually make a judgment call and have relevant, significant data, how much do I actually need? All right, so if you're sending messages, how many do I actually need to send out before I can make a judgment? You need to have that number. If you don't have that number, you're just wishy-washy. Because you can make a decision based off 4 messages. You get one negative reply. You're like, oh, this doesn't work. I need to change something. For sales calls as well. Right? How many sales calls do you have to take to make a judgment on your close rate, on how good your offer is, on your show rate, on things like that? Or you need to determine these minimum sample size. Because if you don't, again, it's just wishy-washy. There's no hard line in the sand. You don't know what's significant, what's not significant. You don't know what is real and what's not. So I'll give you rules of thumb here. So for sales calls, for example, you want a minimum sample size of 30 calls, all right, 30 calls. And so what I found is this is the sample size that gives you significant data of, hey, like if your close rate over 30 calls is 20%, your close rate is about 20% over 30, 60, 100 calls, all right? And this tends to be the minimum sample size. So the larger your data set becomes, the stronger the data becomes, all right? The more predictive it is. All right, so if you have a 300 sample size set versus 30, the 300 is going to tell you like a way more accurate number, even though it might be quite similar because 30 is that good minimum sample size. But if you try and track it out like 10 calls, I've had streaks where I go 10 calls in the past, close it, no one, zip, like no one, 0. And I remember like thinking back to some of those times, and I would think these thoughts of, oh my gosh, holy crap, is my offer broken now? Does the offer not work anymore? Is the niche not viable? And like, what happened to my lead gen? Like, what's going on? And I'll basically panic. And you panic because you don't understand sample size. You don't understand statistical analysis. It's really important. And so back to the first example I was talking about. So what I told him was basically, hey, at this point, we literally just launched this like 2 or 3 days ago. We don't have a minimum sample size yet. And so it's really, really important. You cannot make decisions or judgments based on data that's not big enough, that's not valid. If you only send out 50 messages, we usually want to send out like 200 or 300 to make an accurate decision based on real market data. Because the funny thing with data and how it works is it doesn't present itself like perfectly and simply. All right, so example here. So let's go back to the sales call example. If you've taken sales calls before, you've probably had a streak of no's. Probably had a streak of yeses before as well. So what this means is, hey, let's say you have, a 25% close rate. This over a big enough sample size. This does not mean your close rate can be perfectly, you're gonna, no, yes. No, yes. It doesn't work like that. It's just as likely for you to get no, yes. Just as, just as possible for that to happen. So like realize this, you have to stay level-headed. You have to understand statistics and how it presents itself. All right, so understand that if you flip a coin 100 times, even though it's supposed to be, and it is 50-50 of laying on heads or tails, you're not gonna get a perfect distribution of data where it's heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails. It doesn't work like that. All right, you're gonna get heads 5 times in a row, then tails 5 times in a row, and then heads, 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 tails, tails, heads, heads, tails, tails, heads, tails. It just works like that. Same thing with sales calls, same thing with sending DMs or running ads or anything. So you need to, first thing, like I said, you need to set that minimum sample size. And once you hit that minimum sample size, you actually have significant data for a decision. So just like I told the coach we're working with, I said, hey, once we hit this minimum number right here, then absolutely, let's observe what's going on rationally based on the data, but we don't have the data right now to make any decisions. All right, we don't. We simply don't. If you run ads, this happens with ads a lot. And ads usually take a few days to some ads have bad days sometimes, and they have really good days sometimes. It's up and down. There's fluctuations to it. And so if you launch an ad, I had another brand new coach I was working with. He launched an ad, spent $10, and then he sent it over to me. He's like, hey, do these numbers look good? And I'm like, I have no clue, man. This is $10 to spend. We need to spend way more than that for the minimum sample size. And so we just can't make a decision. All right, even if your ad, let's say your ad gets no results, $10 spent, doesn't mean anything. So your ad gets, I have had this one cool case study where this one guy, we launched retargeting ads. We spent $40. He signed 2 clients. I think it was worth $6K to him. So spent $40 to make $6K. Obviously that's a really good sign, but it's not significant data. We need to spend more to see what's a more consistent return on ad spend look like. But that's the thing right there. You need to understand this. You need to understand it, or else you're gonna freak out. You're gonna make irrational decisions. So it's really important, man. I just kind of been ranting here, but hopefully you understand this now, how to really inject this into your business and make more rational decisions. So minimum sample size. Once you have the minimum sample size, identify what is the real bottleneck here? What's really going on? All right, so it's really helpful when in any client acquisition system, you want to have metrics for each step of the system. So for example, when we're running our DM system, we have a positive reply rate. That's one of the first metrics we track, basically tracking how many people actually positively reply to the message, the first message. Then we also have an appointment booking rate. That's how many people actually book a call out of these messages that we're sending. And so that ABR, the appointment booking rate, is a overall metric for the whole system, see how well it's working. The positive reply rate is really measuring that first message though, see how accurate, see how well that is working. And so having different metrics allows us to clearly see bottlenecks. We can see, okay, well, this one was actually, we got a good positive reply rate, but we had a drop off right here. So this is a clear bottleneck, and we should iterate this part of the system right here and see if that helps hit the ABR, the appointment booking rate that we want. And so that's really important, is you want to have metrics throughout the whole system. All right, so hugely important, hugely important. That's something else I was going to talk about. Kind of blanking on it right now. And then one more important concept I want to give you in this video. This one will really bring it together and allow you to just be amazing at making decisions. Because when it comes down to it, business is all about making decisions. Your decisions obviously drive where your actions are going to be for the next week, the next month. And those actions are either going to get you great results, bring you lots of clients, bring you lots of revenue, or nothing. So decisions are where it matters. And here's how you make really good decisions. You don't want to overstate the importance of just one response, one lead in your system. So here's what I mean by this. So let's say you have a sales call. You go through your sales process. Let's say you have a standardized script and process you go through, and you ask this one certain question. It's a question, let's say this builds doubt or builds urgency in the prospect. You're asking him maybe why is this important to you now? So obviously there's better there's obviously a better tonality you can use, a better flow of the conversation, better context and everything. But just for a reference, basic example, you ask this question. Let's say the prospect freaks out on you. You're oh, why are you trying to be such a? I know you're just being all salesy. And they freak out on you, something like that. This happens. And so a lot of times, if you don't understand this concept, you'll take this one experience, this one point of data, this one prospect, and you will tell yourself, oh my gosh, this question it does not work. It's a really bad question. This guy freaked out on me. I need to remove this from my sales process right now. It doesn't work. People don't like it. And the reality is you can't overstate the importance of one point of data. You can't, because it's just as likely this guy is just a weirdo and he freaks out for no reason. He's really sensitive or something. And then every single, like the rest of your 40, 50, 100 calls for the month, all answer the question fine. They love it. It's part of the sales process that helps improve your close rate. But this guy's just a weirdo. That's just as possible to happen. So you cannot overstate the importance of just one data point. All right, if you're sending DMs and you have a lead block you, who cares? It's one lead. Or you can note it down as a data point, but again, don't make a decision based off one thing. Or if someone like cusses you out, this is funny, this happens. I don't know why people freak out about like a message being received. Like, I don't know, people are weird, but they'll freak out, they curse you out or something like, hey, F you, man, like, you're such a scammer, blah, 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 you've done this and this, why are you messaging me? I didn't ask for this. It's like, who cares, man? Just take it as one data point and move on. You have to have this rational, analytical, statistical mind when you're making business decisions, because if you don't, it's going to burn you. Or you're going to change things, change variables in your whole entire sales system, lead gen system, and then before you know it, you have a completely unrecognizable system that doesn't work at all, because you're changing so many things based on small data points and data that does not have significant data, or is not significant size. And so that's the big concepts you need to understand to make really good decisions in your business regarding statistics. All right, so hopefully this helps. Hopefully it gives you a different paradigm, different perspective on how to make decisions, and how to apply this to your business. If you are someone who wants one-on-one help to launch or scale your coaching business, I've done this many times before on multiple businesses that do quite well, and we obviously help guys do this now. So click the link below if you are interested, with a video breaking down my offer and what we do. So click that link if you are interested in scaling. If not, thank you so much for watching. You're amazing. I'll see you in the next one.